You are tuned in to another edition of Americana Music Profiles, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's jump right in to the next exciting interview. Nick Russo and his wife, Betina Hershey, are my guests on this edition of Americana Music Profiles. Banjo Nickaru and Western Scooches is their band, and we're talking about their sophomore CD titled Get Us Out of Fearland. So Nick and Betina, hi, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Greg. Thanks so much for this great opportunity, and it's great to talk with you again.
Yeah, you're right. It's been about a year, I guess, that we talked, and you guys have been busy and on the road and working on a new record, so we definitely want to talk about that. When we talked last time, and in the show notes, I will point you guys, listeners, back to that. But for those, kind of set the stage, Nick, give me just a quick background, because you had a kind of an interesting introduction into music and how this all got started for you originally. Give me just a highlight of that.
Very next thing, our debut album came out in 2016, and we basically extracted some songs and reworked them from our sister band, Hot Jazz Jumpers, and then Betina and I included our two originals, one we wrote together called I'm Getting Married, and we were really pleasantly surprised. It was number 5 in folk radio for September 2016, if my memory serves me, and then I think number 6 artist, and we played at NERFA. And we've been having just a wonderful experience seeing how this grows and playing not only as a duo but trio, and we have different configurations. We also have a quartet. And we played a semi-formal showcase at NERFA the following year, just this past 2017. So it's a nice climb to see all these different things, and done wood songs and been on John Platt's, both his show at WFUV but also On Your Radar at Rockwood, and we're psyched. And
what was the name of that album?
It's called Very Next Thing.
Yep. Okay. Got it. Originally, when you first got introduced to music, I believe you told me it was by your uncle. Is that right? Your uncle
my
and your
uncle
dad?
Mike, and that's right. My dad, Rich Russo, is now gone about 10 or 11 years, and he was in the band in the 1960s called Scarecrow, not the later band in the 80s called The Scarecrow, but
right.
Scarecrow. And they were on Columbia Records, and they toured with Fly in the Family Stone, and he had a hit record when he was 13, and got to play in Chuck Berry's band. So he had some career. He got to know Jimi Hendrix and a lot of people on that scene. So I grew up in a recording studio actually playing drums on some backing tracks with family members. Also, my Uncle John, who's passed away, a great singer-songwriter with my dad's brother, Mike Russo, my Uncle Mike, who's still around. He's an amazing singer-songwriter, incredible blues guitar player. Mm-hmm. So I had a lot of music growing up, and we played as family jam sessions, and I switched from drums. I still play drums, but then went to guitar and electric bass, and it was always a good time at our house. Our place was the center house for all the kids to hang out. So when I got older, my own bands with one of my best friends, Charlie Cosi and John Dunning, we'd have our own band and use my dad's recording gear, 8-track reel-to-reel, and all mixing gear and stuff.
And I think if my memory serves me right, your original intention was to go to college and maybe work in science. Is that right? Something like that?
Oh, good memory. Yeah, I wound up doing a BS in science, and I was pre-med for many years, and I still love science. And actually, my Uncle Mike is a retired chemist, so we have that in our influences in our family. But I played music the whole time, and actually my my grandfather, another Nick Russo, who played with Red Nichols and his Five Pennies and Spike Jones, when he passed away, that was a little bit of a determining factor. I thought, wow, life is so short. And I was literally practicing classical guitar in the hospital when I was visiting him. Wow. And I just decided, you know what, I just have to do music all the time, something I have to do. It wasn't something I could just do on the side. Mm-hmm. And that's when I decided, regardless of money, I'm just going to play,
Yeah.
And also, Betina comes from a very musical family. Talk about your dad, or maybe she mentioned last year about her dad, Lowell Hershey. He's a well-known classical trumpet player.
I'm not sure that we got to talk about that last time, and I would love to know that, Betina. If you could give me a bit of your introduction into the music world when you first got started.
Oh, sure. I grew up in a super musical household because my mom played the piano every single day, and she was a painter, so every day she painted. And my dad plays the trumpet with many Broadway shows. When I was born, he was doing Candide. When I was 5, he was doing Peter Pan on Broadway. He does Phantom of the Opera, and I ended up getting the part of Meg and touring the national tour of Phantom of the Opera.
That's cool.
And he played with all kinds of things like Alvin Ailey Dance Company and Martha Graham, and I ended up, and Paul Taylor, they all had orchestras back then. And I got to see all these modern dance companies, and I also did a lot of modern dancing. I got super inspired by all the things that he was playing, and my mom was super creative, so I was always writing songs, and she would help me learn how to write the music down, and she was always calling me her little songbird.
And Betina wound up being in a couple movies because she worked with Julia Roberts as one of the principal dancers in Mona Lisa Smile. She's
cool.
in all the dance scenes, right, Betina?
Yeah, that's cool.
And also Disney's Enchanted is another movie, and then she's also in Malcolm X, but I think the other movies she had more major parts.
Yeah, wow, that's neat. And I don't know if we talked about this last time, Nick, or not, but you actually got to play with Paul McCartney. Is that right?
Yeah, that was incredible. And actually, Betina's dad also got to play a gig with Paul McCartney. He actually played a full gig with St. Luke's Orchestra.
Oh,
My
cool.
story was just still very memorable that I got to play 2 songs with him at Gwyneth Paltrow's house. I was playing in a jazz quartet, and the band was taking a break, and the organizers were trying to work out a way that the band can play continuous, which is something that musicians kind of shun upon.
Sure, yeah.
It's like we need a break, and you need a break as a team because then you get to hang, and that's when you tell anecdotes and stories, and
right.
the music breathes, and you come back with second set recharged. But with Paul there, Paul was actually singing along with all these 20s, these obscure standards that we were playing, like really obscure 20s tunes, including the verses. He knew all the words, and when the break came, I offered to play solo guitar, and he walked right over and he started playing this little toy harmonica. He was holding a boy. I thought it was his son, actually.
Huh.
And we talked a little bit. Well, first he started jamming with me, and we talked between songs, and the videographers came around, just boom, surrounded us. I know there's a video of this, and then I broke into Sodanza. No, I was playing Sodanza Samba when he joined me, this Joe Beam. Basically, I was playing it as a samba, but it's people play as a bossa. And then, secondly, I went into a blues. And then when he walked away, I played something, and he gave me a thumbs up, and I felt so gratified. But then the musicians were making fun of me, and at the end, Chris Martin, who was married to Gwyneth at the time, from Coldplay, said, "You have a lot of nerve playing a George Harrison tune for Paul McCartney." Kind of half joking around.
Yeah.
But I took it to heart. I really felt bad for the longest time until I talked to my childhood friend Charlie Cosi, and I told him the story. And he said, "Nick, what are you worried about? Paul plays something as a tribute to George Harrison on ukulele every concert." So I said, "All right, I'm cool." I knew Paul was cool with it. He was very down to earth. But then I told my musician friends, "Hey, something is a great tune, and it also falls really well on the guitar." So to answer your question, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's cool. What a memory to hang on to, and to inspire you forward to do other things like that. So that's so cool.
Yeah.
So the official name of the band is Banjo Nickaru and Western Scooches. And what does I don't know how to put into words exactly what that conjures up for me. What musically, what does the theme for the band? When you guys play, it's a mix of 20s and jazz and some different kinds of things. Can you define it? Does it fit in something for you guys?
Yeah, it's interesting. And then now the new album is it's mostly all originals, except we do a version of 100 Miles, all these amazing tunes that Betina wrote. And now the new album, Get Us Out of Fearland, that'll be coming out June 14th is our release concert, by the way, at Drome, I should mention, in New York City. It's a DROM. But to answer your question, it's a melting pot. It's everything but the kitchen sink. We have Indian instruments. I'm playing harmonium and rainstick on Don't You Follow Me, and then we have the opening track, Soar, which is a little bit of the alt grass. And then Betina wrote these pieces, a lot of them actually being at Folk Alliance International in the hotel room right after the election.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of, we have three specific social conscious tunes, I Wish the World Knew Why, and also Nita Now I mentioned, and Dandelion, we brought in some gospel singers, which is amazing. And of course, Get Us Out of Fearland, the title track.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have that aspect, and then we have a Suriname drummer who I played in Malika Zara's band with many years. It's a great Moroccan band, and Harvey Wirt plays drums on a bunch of the tracks. We still have Dr. David Pleasant from the first album with his amazing Gullah Geechee rhythms, and then we added some New Orleans flavor too, again on Betina's original. So Dandelion has some gospel singers with a second line groove. Mm-hmm. And then we still have some, just traditional bluegrass. 100 Miles is on there, and and we have Betina's really cute song, our homage to the 1920s. I Don't Need No Glasses, which is based on the harmonic device of 5'2" and many other 20s tunes.
Yeah,
we always think of our band as a mixture of a lot of different styles, but we call it Americana and 1920s in New Orleans, and then of course there's all kinds of other flavors, world music that jumps in because of the musicians we play with and with the influences we have.
The title track, is there anything specific that inspired that? Do we want to know?
Oh yeah. So two things. I was sitting around with Nick, Miles Griffith, David Pleasant, and myself, and we were playing a groove, and this groove that came out, David Pleasant was doing this amazing rhythms to it, and I was writing inspired by the sounds I was hearing, and so the feel of the song jumped out of that, but it was definitely the lyrics come from the news and from everything that's happening in this country. Just like I was feeling like everybody, there was too much people yelling at each other and not respecting each other, and of course I was really fearful myself of what could happen at that moment, right when the election occurred, and so I needed an uplifting message for myself and for everybody that we just, like, fear is something that brings us towards hatred and not understanding each other, and we have to get out of fear.
Right, yeah. No, that's good. I kind of figured that it was something along those lines, and you mentioned that some of these tunes had come out of your experience with Folk Alliance and places like that, and so it made me wonder how much of the music for you guys has changed, or how much the things that you've gotten to do over the last year has changed the style and the way that you write songs.
Good question.
Interesting. The way that I write songs, usually it's a very flow way. Like, I've been writing songs for such a long time, and they flow out of me. And sometimes a topic will be in my head because what I'm thinking about, and maybe like 3 or 4 songs flow out. And if I catch them, I record them, or I write them down. I can catch a lot of songs in the same day, and then we'll play them with the band, or just me and Nick, or just myself. I'll play it a bunch, and whatever sits with me, and I continue wanting to play, and also I get affected deeply by like the reactions I get from people. So I love writing, and I could write a ton of songs, and then we take them out, and when people react visibly to them, then it's really nice to keep them.
It's such an organic band. I think Betina's really easy to work with, and she's affected by the sonorities that we provide. Or like she said, we'll be on a gig, and if Miles does some crazy thing, that becomes part of the song, or some instrument that I bring in, or the audience. I know you played I Wish the World Knew Why in front of my mom, I think when you were first writing it, and just her. My mom was always a fan of the blues, with my dad's music, and I think her reaction actually maybe shaped the song or inspired you to keep writing it.
How much of the jazz approach to music of improvisation filters into what you guys do. You're writing these songs and they're original songs. How much liberty do you take with them when you're playing them out live to change them around a bit as you find them fitting into your sets?